All right, I think we'll get started. So thanks everyone for joining us today. So my name is Martin O'Riordan. I'm the General Manager and Head of Cybersecurity here at Mercury IT. And today we're talking about the future of work. So what we do as a company, just very briefly, we are a business-to-business managed service provider. So we actually provide certainly IT consulting services, cybersecurity, IT solutions, IT managed services, cloud services to all of our customers. So one of those things that we do is provide that enabling services. Today, though, we are talking about the future of work, and our very special guest today is Associate Professor Mohan Titi. And Professor Titi is a human resources management professional with over 30 years of international industry and academic experience. Mohan has expertise in strategic HR initiatives in attracting, retaining and developing talent, learning and development. He is digital HRM, human resource information system, EHRM, global talent management, and most recently lectured on the future of work at Griffith University. So we do welcome Professor Titi today and really appreciate your time. Thank you. So look, today we're talking about where work is going to from here and how, to an extent, how technology has provided some of the platforms to possibly change the foundations of what that work looks like. It also has been an unusual time in the last 12 months. So we've seen certainly an adoption of new work practices that we may not have seen as quickly as it has happened over the period of time. So look, today it's different. We have a different work environment. We keep seeing that people are embracing the work from home, or certainly a hybrid version of work from home. So being able to work from home a certain period of time and being able to work in the office other times. We've seen that it has enabled a lot of the responses to the COVID-19 situation, and it certainly has ensured that the economy has been able to tick along as well. So today we've got a lot of research has been going on into what the future of work really means, and certainly Gartner has been one of those companies that's done some research. So Mohan, what do you sort of think that the Gartner study has provided us with?
Thank you, Martin. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for inviting me to this exciting session today. Like Martin said, Gartner and many other consulting companies such as Boston Consulting and so on have done quite a bit of studies, not just as a result of the pandemic, but even before that, there has been quite a bit of work having been done on the digitization of the work, of the workforce and the workplaces. So as you can see, there have been tremendous changes in terms of the kind of work that we do that's augmented by artificial intelligence and automation. There are research studies that predict that 40% of jobs that are there today will disappear in the next 15 years or so. So the work is changing rapidly. The workforce is changing rapidly as well, with more and more of gig workforce coming into the pipeline, and the workplaces have also undergone radical changes with open office spaces, and now thanks to the pandemic, it's basically closed office spaces because people have moved home. So it's not just as a result of the pandemic, but also because of disruptive technologies that are there that have led to a lot of hybrid workforce models. While we can see the symptoms, the prescription has to obviously go deeper and over a longer time horizon. We as academics are more interested in the long-term effects rather than the short-term patchwork solutions. Just to summarize the hybrid workforce model that we're talking about, one thing is sure that obviously today 48% of the employees are working remotely, up from 30% pre-pandemic. But what is very heartening to note is that among fully remote employees, 48% display high discretionary effort versus 35% who are never remote. Now, this aspect is very important to me, at least as a student of strategic human resource management, because in the knowledge economy, it's all about discretionary effort. People are motivated and willing to contribute and so on. So it shows that working from home has definitely resulted in a higher enterprise contribution and discretionary effort. And also the GWA survey notes that 70% of the managers reported the same, if not better, productivity of employees when working from home. And that most employees are reporting a preference to establish a hybrid model of going forward, with the majority saying they would prefer to remain work from home for 2 to 3 days per week. Now, this is one consistent result that is coming across all the research studies, that while employees appreciate the benefits of working from home, they also recognize the critical importance of workforce socialization, the informal socialization, peer mentoring, peer networking that goes on. They recognize that, and therefore, the hybrid working model is what is becoming more and more preferred option, at least from the employee point of view. But that has a lot of implications from the workforce, which I will talk later.
So really, there are a lot of benefits for the hybrid model, and we sort of want to try and touch on a few of those as we go forward. And certainly one of those that I think some of the researchers pointed out is certainly that mental health and well-being. Having that work-life balance has been a real key aspect of what the hybrid model can bring. So what do you think that the trends are with the mental health and well-being component of that hybrid model?
Yep, I think the results on that are mixed, Martin, because the global work from home experience survey that's conducted by Global Workplace Analytics, they suggest that many employees have reported improvements to their health and well-being as a result of working from home. However, a number of studies and reports also claim the opposite effect. For example, a survey by CSIRO found significant numbers of respondents felt that their exercise, diet, and emotional well-being had worsened during the COVID-19 lockdown. Similarly, the Australian HR Institute reported that many employees lacked psychological and physiological preparedness for working from home. And it also found negative impacts on mental health, especially for those with pre-existing conditions. So managing mental health is one of the significant challenges rather than advantages of the result of the pandemic.
So, but don't you think going forward, Mohan, that the pandemic lockdown component of work from home is vastly different to what we're talking about with a hybrid model going forward, where people aren't necessarily also locked in their spaces when they're not working. So, and that hybrid model where you can spend a couple of days in at the workplace and a few days at home, we've worked with that sort of model in our own workplace for many years prior to the pandemic, and from a mental health and well-being perspective, it provides a really good balance. So do you think that perhaps some of those studies are a little bit too focused on the COVID part rather than what hybrid's going to look like going forward?
I think that's a good observation, Martin. We need to distinguish between what's happening directly as a result of the pandemic and what's going to happen post-pandemic. So during the pandemic, particularly states like Victoria and New South Wales, went early, went hard, and they've had a lot more problems than states like Queensland, for instance. So they have posed specific problems. But come post-pandemic, I think expectations from both the sides, employers and employees, have to be revisited. And when it comes to the right time, I will talk about the implications of what we have learned from working from home from a longer-term perspective. For example, in terms of office design, use of office space, change in command and control kind of working style, relationship between managers and employees, relationship between trade unions and management, and so on and so forth.
So it's a good point to move on to the next one. You said about resetting some of those expectations, both from the employer and employee perspective. So obviously, talent acquisition and retaining talent is going to, well, it has always been a key component of every workplace, but going forward, there's going to be expectations certainly from employees or potential employees for that flexibility and being able to have some of those key aspects that they've been able to get used to over this period of time? And do you think that businesses are going to have to be very accommodating for some of those expectations?
Well, obviously, one of the most profound long-term effects of digitization generally and working from home in particular has been on talent attraction, development, and retention aspects. And this is my most favorite subject. And also research studies are throwing a lot of light on the talent implications of what's happening at the moment. So the first thing to notice is that the location of talent is no longer geographically limited. If you're talking about outsourcing, it could be anywhere in Australia. It could lead to benefits such as call center workers working from lower employment areas such as Adelaide, rural, regional areas, and so on. So there will be effects of that. But if you think broadly from an offshoring perspective, again, talent is now globally mobile and globally in demand. So the geographic boundaries around talent mobility have been somewhat removed. And what's also research showing is that the traditional organizational chart that we used to have in terms of clearly defining roles, they are becoming redundant because the skill clusters are now replacing the traditional roles. And also the gig economy workers, the contingent workforce is replacing the full-time employment that we have seen. So from a broader talent management perspective, Martin, we can see that either the jobs go where the talent are in terms of people migrating overseas, skilled migration, or the talent goes where the jobs are, or the jobs go where the talent is, right? Now, one of the developments in this area is the increasing deglobalization, whether it is Make America Great Again or Brexit movement or whatever, have resulted in kind of more and more restrictions being placed on the global movement of talent, which essentially shows that from a long-term perspective, organizations, industries, and countries need to focus on long-term internal talent development rather than fully dependent on foreign imported labor.
So one of the things that we always have a challenge with is retaining good talent, and certainly when people decide that they want to change their location, they might be looking to move to a different area, move to a different part of a state or whatever. It could be their partner that has a job in a different state. Do you think that the ability to have a culture of hybrid workplaces means that some of those employees may decide that they can continue to work for the company rather than leaving and going in search for a new role in the new area?
That is true. And when it comes to employee retention, it's not just on the job factors that count. It's also off the job factors in terms of climate and neighborhood, the schools where your kids go, and so on. They all have an impact. And one of the limitations, traditionally has been the geographic boundaries. But now with the experience that we have gained from the pandemic, we have realized that there are a plethora of collaborative technologies out there that really enable us to work anywhere, anytime, using any device, and that has really come to the fore. As a result of that, I would say that the expectations of employees have increased, whereas the skeptic in me tells me that the managerial mindset has basically remained the same, in the sense that there are still many managers out there who want to physically supervise the work of their workers under their command. So if you follow the bureaucratic structure, the command and control kind of management style, and the closed culture, then obviously there is going to be a massive discrepancy between what today's employees expect and what the employers are offering.
So I tend to think that yes, there are certainly still some of those mindsets around, but I tend to look at it and think that those businesses that can't adapt to this new way of thinking possibly won't necessarily be able to continue into the future. They just won't attract talent, they won't be able to keep talent, and they won't have that ability to be agile when issues such as the pandemic strikes. I mean, we've seen yo-yo effects of lockdowns continue across, not just Australia but the world. So this is not necessarily going to be something that's just going to be a switch and turned off again. So I tend to think that if those businesses can't tend to adopt this, that they really do want that hands-on oversight, that they probably just won't survive.
Absolutely right. I mean, agility, is a very critical requirement, both from the point of view of employee skill as well as managerial mindset. And if employers still cling on to the traditional tools and techniques of managing people, they're going to be thrown by the wayside, because going forward, the only sustainable competitive advantage is innovation and creative capability of employees. And if you put more hurdles, in terms of them, using it, and that too at their discretion, mind you, you can't force them to, share their tacit knowledge or whatever. If you look at the kind of framework of learning organization that is very central to knowledge economy, if you don't adapt to the learning organization mindset, then you're not going to be able to attract or retain talent.
You also mentioned that the office environment is going to sort of change quite significantly. What do you think the trends are going to be with office space?
We've already made quite a bit of changes in terms of the office design, and now we used to measure somebody's work status in terms of the size of the office cabin that they used to have and so on. But today, more and more of open office design is the kind of norm, which have kind of reduced the status differentiation within the workplace. But that said, in terms of some of the employers rushing to, particularly the finance people, rushing to see some major cost saving here by making people work from home, I would have a word of caution. I'll give you an example from universities. When I joined universities 20 years ago, we used to have what we call as staff recreation rooms, where all the academic staff and the students would mix, and we would talk to each other, find out who is doing what research. So that would lead to research collaboration. We would talk to students more informally and so on. And then suddenly it was decided that now they are becoming redundant, and so they were replaced by 24/7 computer labs. And as a result of that, informal workforce socialization completely went out of the door. So I would strike a word of caution there, that there is still a place for people to meet and interact and learn from each other, share their knowledge and so on. And therefore, no matter what we do going forward, we still have to make way for people to meet frequently face to face.
Which is why we're talking about a hybrid model, not necessarily just a work from home model, because you're right, that interaction, face-to-face interaction, is really important for business development and human development. So I think that just from our perspective, that hybrid scenario is the way forward, and certainly there will be some cost savings, because you may not need as large an office space as you did before, or those car and transport costs will certainly reduce, and that ability for staff to be able to buy into regions where perhaps property prices are less is going to be quite attractive. going forward?
Absolutely. I mean, in terms of particularly attracting talent to rural and regional areas will be, somewhat easier in the light of the experience that we have gained from the pandemic. That location really does not matter. One can be equally productive, equally motivated working from home as well.
So we've also seen through this process that there has been a technology enabler that has certainly been part of the response to the pandemic. And whilst a lot of the technologies have been around for some time, they really only became quite a mature product set within the last couple of years. So it certainly has been fortuitous that the technology was kind of ready for the pandemic rather than the pandemic driving technology. Do you see any other trends around, or you might have some more commentary around that technology that's enabled this, the work from home, the hybrid models?
Well, I mean, there is absolutely no doubt that technology has had a fundamental, has led to massive transformation of productivity of the workplace, of customer satisfaction, and so on. But at the same time, there are also a number of unintended negative consequences of overuse or inappropriate use of technology, so to say. I mean, the most sobering research study to me, which shows that there is no noticeable increase in business productivity due to new technology. So it all boils down to culture and management mindset, Martin, because no technology can substitute for managerial incompetence or managerial inaction. Okay, at the end of the day, technology is only a tool. It cannot be a panacea for all the ills of business problems. So we've got to keep in mind the limitations of technology. It's always people over process, mindset over metrics, and dignity over data. So yeah.
Yeah, and you make a good point there, is that it still is about the people, and you still have to be able to manage people. And certainly you hear a lot of buzzwords going around about digitization, and there seems to be some inherent beliefs that you can use technology to solve all your problems, where it just isn't that case. It is, you still have to manage your people, you still have to motivate, you still need to make them productive. And as you say, the technology is just the enabler.
That's right. Research studies show that it's the first line supervision or leadership that counts the most, the immediate supervisor. And unless the mindset of the supervisor changes, the digital world also requires digital culture. And digital culture is not about just, doing digital, but being digital. And when we say being digital, it comes down to empowerment. It comes down to breaking down of barriers. It comes down to encouraging diversity of thinking, diversity of recruiting talent, and so on. So unless there is a corresponding change in the organizational culture, digital technology can only have a limited effect.
Well, actually, that's a good segue to the next point we were going to talk about, which is culture. So what do you think needs to change in the workplace culture for the next 5 years of our growth?
Well, I will take you to another research study, because in academia we always believe in evidence-based management. There was a survey that very interestingly pointed out that there are differing perceptions of capability between managers and employees, where managers perceived employees' creativity and innovation as being negatively impacted by working from home. Employees felt that working from home had improved these skills. Managers have one view, whereas employees have another view. And again, it comes down to that kind of learning organization mindset, because if you look at how the gig economy is shaping up, we want people to have self-leadership, right? I mean, nobody's going to manage their careers. And if the employees have this attitude of help me in terms of managing the uncertainty of business, but help yourself in terms of managing your own careers, well, obviously, it's not going to work out because there are major trust issues between employers and employees, particularly in the light of the gig economy that is leading to precarious employment because people don't have full-time employment anymore. And therefore, in a knowledge economy, unless that trust factor is established, people are not going to share their knowledge.
It's a good point. So sort of, we're going to finish up for our piece here, and we'll open up for some questions from our attendees. But so just as a last point, what do you sort of think the opportunities, barriers, and challenges are for the hybrid workplace going forward?
Okay, so I actually again had made a list of things that. So the first implication that the research is showing is the the delocation of the talent. Right now, it's available freely throughout the world, but you have to make smart and strategic use of outsourcing and offshoring rather than using it as a kind of cost-saving device. That's number one. Number two. There is increasing isolation and blurring of the lines between work and home. So, working from home also, creates those additional challenges because 44% of the people cite distractions or caring responsibilities. Now, that's another important thing, that it is going to have more and more of a gender impact in terms of working from home. Women, undertaking more domestic responsibilities and so on. Studies also show that over 40% of the people said that they were not sufficiently supported by their employer, and they did not feel that the team was as productive working from home as in the office. It also showed that 77% of the respondents said that employers should provide guidance and rules around working from home. So it's important that they need to be very clear guidance in terms of working from home. And it also assumes that the IT infrastructure, cyber security, and so on are robust and in place rather than leaving everything to the employees. Another most important thing is the kind of digital skills that are in demand. So it's not just the technical skills, but also the higher order soft skills that are going to be important. Now, for example, if you are making if you're interacting with people in a virtual global team, what are the etiquettes? What kind of cross-cultural understanding, emotional intelligence that you need to have. So there are a number of implications there.
Really good points. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for attending today, Professor Titi. It's really been a good conversation. I've really enjoyed what you've been saying. So we'll throw it open now to our attendees if they have some questions. So Hayley will be able to just go through those and read those out.
Yes, we've just had a question come through, and it's from Arun. In our remote working world, how are Mercury IT helping their customers with user training and onboarding new hires and ensuring their security compliance?
So, well, I think it's not just us. It's all of the IT profession has had to try and adapt quite quickly to some of these things. But there are a lot of tools out there to be able to do talent onboarding. A lot of the Microsoft tools like Teams, and they've actually announced a new tool like that they're bringing on very shortly that will actually facilitate a lot of that onboarding and training and interaction between the staff member and the rest of their team. So certainly it has been really good tools. Certainly all of the Microsoft tool set has been quite good. And it's not just Microsoft, there are other collaboration tools, but generally speaking, from an office environment, from a business environment, the Microsoft tools with their integration has been quite good, being able to work on documents in real time together, being able to share your screen, being able to take over a screen from someone who's on the other end. So for training purposes, for coaching, for onboarding, it's a really good tool to be able to do that for someone remotely. We do it internally. We have staff all over the country that are working from home predominantly or from client sites, and certainly we use those tools to provide that training in real time, and we see really good results from it.
Did anyone else have any other questions to add? Rebecca's just asked for the statistics, so we can send that through for her a little bit later with the follow-up email.
Sure.
Are there any other questions?
Nope, I think that was it.
I think everyone's digesting what's been said and trying to think how they can adapt their businesses to that hybrid model going forward. So if there aren't any other questions, I think we can certainly wrap up the session today. Once again, Professor Tithi, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your knowledge and your research. I really appreciate that, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Marty.
And thanks to Hayley and Alicia from our Mercury team for organising everything today. And also, just finally, thanks to all the attendees for attending and listening to us talk about the hybrid workforce and the future of work. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. Have a great day.
Thanks.